I think last time we met was Wednesday. We met Wednesday night. Rabina spoke on Thursday night, if I remember correctly. What I think we got to last time was we were trying to use the concepts from Sfirat HaOmer in order to go on that journey, in order to come back to the Mishkan and the transition from Shemot to Vayikra, which was where we're at. I think what we got to last time, we saw that the system of Sfirat HaOmer of 7 times 7 midot, and we examined the way each week of Sfirat HaOmer completes itself with Midat Malchut. And Midat Malchut, just like the role of the Malchut, historically, just like the role of the Melech, is to harmonize and piece together all the different groups and individuals within Klal Yisrael. As when we do not have Malchut, we saw in Sefer Shoftim, so then there's a body which all of its different limbs are working alone, not together. And that's what it says in Sefer Shoftim time and again. We saw, I'm just giving a summary of 1 or 2 minutes. Ish bayamim hahem en melech b'Yisrael, ish hayashar be'einav yaseh. In those days of Sefer Shoftim, there's no king. Everybody does whatever he wants, which we've taught. That teaches us that the role of the melech, as the Rambam says explicitly, yekabetz kol umatenu. He gathers us to one. He makes us into one. He is echad ha'am, as we said last time. He's the one. He's what makes Klal Yisrael goy echad ba'aretz, one unified, harmonious orchestra with many different instruments. But we saw that the king, like the conductor in an orchestra of a six-piece band, just like the conductor doesn't play any instrument, the melech himself is the unifying element that harmonizes everybody. And we said, just like Shabbat, the 7th day of the week doesn't have any of its own melacha, which allows for all melachot of the week to be harmonized and to come together. And then I therefore asked, what happens when you take out the Malchut element of the 49 midot, which is the 7 times 7 midot, and you extract out the Malchut, which means it's without the harmonizing element. So then we saw that we end up having 36 midot of chol, 36 midot which are non-harmonizing. Why did I mention all this last time? Because when we go into Chet HaEgel, which the Mishkan here that we're entering into is the fixing of it, the grand statement of which is the heart of the issue of Chet HaEgel is, did we look inside the Psukim last time in Parshat Kitisa about Chet HaEgel? Anybody?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think we did.
Okay, so open up just one pasuk. Perek Lamed Bet in Sefer Shemot. Pasuk Daled. Perek Lamed Bet, Pasuk Daled. Sefer Shemot, chapter 32, Pasuk 4. We're not going to see the context. We don't have the time. If you look inside the Perek Lamed Bet, Pasuk Daled, that is the actual one pasuk, which is the crux of Chet HaEgel. As we all know, Moshe tells the people he's going to come down on the 40th day. They wait on the 40th day. They think he's delayed. They lose their patience after 6 hours. All this is based on Psukim and Chazal. And they turn to Aaron and say, make us a god. He takes the gold from them. He throws them into the fire. And without going into the sources about it, how this works, what's the mechanisms, but a form of a golden calf comes out of the fire. And the response of Bnei Israel to that, which is the statement of Avodah Zarah, which is the heart of Chet HaEgel, is this pasuk, Perek Lamed Bet, pasuk Daled. Look inside, please. Vayikach miyadam, vayatzar oto becheret, vayaseu egel masecha. Vayomru, when the people see this egel coming out, they respond and say, Ele Elohecha Yisrael asher elucha me'eretz Mitzrayim. Ele Elohecha Yisrael, relating to God as Ele. Of course, what's the big inherent mistake? There's many layers to it, but in the most basic level, what's the inherent mistake of relating to God with this term Ele?
Because Elah is plural.
Ele is plural. How should one turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Instead of Ele and Lashon HaKodesh, what word would we use? When we relate to one and not to many, we say?
Love.
What?
A love.
But you say Ele, meaning these. How do you want to say this? This is my God. So that's what we say in
Elah.
Shvat Hayam. We say in Shirat Hayam, Ze Eli ve'anveu. This is my God. Hashem reveals himself to whatever extent or revelation at Kriyat Yam Suf and Bnei Yisrael. We say this every morning. Ze Eli ve'anveu. I point. Ze means you're pointing to one. When you point to one, you say Ze. When you're pointing to many, you say Ele. So this is the built-in mistake, the multiplicity, the fragmentation of God, shattering the oneness of God into a multiplicity of gods. The truth is, you look at Rashi on this pasuk, he says that explicitly. Ele Elohecha Yisrael, says Rashi. If you have Rashi, you can look inside. I don't have Rashi in front of me at this moment. Elohu tarbe ivu lahem. They desired many gods. This is the core of paganism. This is the shattering, the unification of God. Meaning from here on, Bnei Yisrael are going to go through the history-long challenge of unifying God. That's ultimately expressed, of course, in Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Let's take 1 minute out to emphasize the meaning and the relevance to us. We think, it's not relevant to us. We're already developed, we're intellectual, we're modern, we don't believe in multiplicity of gods, we're not pagans. It's not what it means for us. Once upon a time, yes. It has new layers of meaning every generation. In a generation like ours, that you either believe in one God, or let's talk about the entire Western world. Like, you either believe in one God, or you don't believe in any God. You don't believe in a multiplicity of gods. Mankind is not holding there, besides some African tribes or, I don't know, some Far Eastern tribes. We're talking about the majority of the world, the Western world, the centerpiece of mankind. Either you believe in one God. Monotheistic concepts of Judaism have spread around the world, or you believe in no God. It means you're an atheist, chas v'shalom, or an agnostic, which means you're sitting on the fence. You didn't make up your opinion yet about God. Maybe the time has come to make such a decision one time in one life. But in any case, so what would it mean in our times? What would Ele Elohecha Yisrael, as shattering Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, mean in our times? Or I'll phrase the same thing differently. What is our kavanah when we say twice a day, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad? What? We need to keep repeating to ourselves we believe in one God and not more. It's not relevant in our times. It's not relevant since the medieval period. It's an issue. Shonim, you have books that go, and very important Sefarim, which most of them are very relevant to us. Chovot HaLevavot, for example. One of the most important, the duties of the hearts. Today they're translated into English. At these times that we're stuck in our homes and we're in our rooms, I highly recommend one of the books that most influenced me when I was much younger. All Gedolim throughout the generations put it that definitely I always top 5 with the books of Avodat Hashem, such as Sharim, Chovot HaLevavot is up there. But in the first section of the book, Shara Yichud, which the Gra, by the way, said not to learn, he goes and gives many philosophical proofs for the oneness of God as opposed to the multiplicity of gods. For us, we experience them as irrelevant, dry, Greek-like logical proofs, which were so completely not there anymore. Fine, for his times, it was necessary. For our times, it's irrelevant. So what does Hashem Echad mean today? Hashem Echad means today that even though the world looks so diverse, even though the world it seems as so pluralistic, even though the world is made up of so many different galaxies and species and nations and cultures and worldviews, I'm a Ben Avraham Avinu, and I'm able to see all throughout that great multiplicity. And even though the world seems so vast and the world seems so fragmented, with a deep eye, I'm able to see how everything unifies to one. There's one conductor behind the entire orchestra. That takes a deep eye to be able to see how all of human history comes together to one thing, and all that's happening in the world at our times is all being run by one script writer, only one, and who's pulling the strings of history. That takes a lot of effort. I'll tell you, to be very honest, I think the most common challenge when guys, I've said this many times, from many conversations over the years, the biggest challenge for guys when they leave yeshiva is, more so than the internet and what's all there, that in terms of the tum'ah of it. The biggest challenge is that a person experienced a year or 2 years in yeshiva where he sees the world from a certain worldview. Hopefully the yeshiva didn't brainwash him, but he washed his brain a little and he got to look at the world through the eyes of Yerushalayim Eretz Yisrael, Rav Nebenzahl, and when a person goes across the Atlantic, all of a sudden the weeks go by and he sees other perspectives and other world views, and he starts looking back at every day that goes by, it becomes a little more of a fodder into the past experience, and a way you start doubting, well, maybe I was just wrapped up in a certain perspective. Maybe I did let myself be brainwashed. Maybe there are many other perspectives out there who said that one unified perspective is the truth. We're challenged with this, especially in our generation. There's so much out there. There's so many views, there's so many perspectives. In our generation, it's even built into the ideology. And that is, if you don't believe in a multiplicity of perspectives, if you don't let go of your belief in one truth, you're considered archaic, outdated, you're not liberal, you don't respect others, and all the talk of today. So now maybe something is changing in the world in the last few weeks with everything going on, these very trying and challenging and extreme times. But the world which we were living in until a few weeks ago was very much that. For a Jew who believes in one truth behind this entire world, was looked down upon academically, philosophically, anywhere. And Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad is a response saying, I'm sorry, you can be as liberal as you want, and in many ways, I'm liberal as well. But I believe there's one secret behind the entire world. You don't buy it, you're entitled to, but I'm a Ben Avram Avinu, and I thought about it a lot. And I invested a lot of effort, and I reached the conclusion that the world has to have only one source and only one truth to it. Right? If the whole world comes from one big bang, from one point, that means everything that exists in the world comes from that one point. There can't be two explanations for the world, which are true. According to Torah, there's only one explanation to the world, which is true, which is Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. If I do accept the fact that the world was created by one creator, there's only one secret and one truth behind the entire world. I don't want to develop this too much. That doesn't contradict the fact that within the system of Torah, we can find a multiplicity of Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. That's a different discussion completely. Anyway, so back to that's what I try to make Chet Egel is relevant. Avodah Zarah is relevant. And the Mishkan coming to fix it, as we'll see in a moment, Oel Moed is coming to fix it, is completely relevant. So how does this all come together? It comes together because if you take the word Ele, which, by the way, the Zohar says, I don't want to elaborate on it too much right now, but that word, that mistake, the word that contains the mistake of Chet Egel, just in terms of that sense of multiplicity, that as Yoni said, but think about it from another angle. Not only is it plural, but it's also claiming that I can point to God. Ele means these. God is beyond what I can point. I can point to his creations. I can point to the creations that nature displays. I can point to the impact of God on the world. I can't point to God. He's invisible. He's abstract. He's infinite. He's beyond. The pagan doesn't accept that. The pagan thinks that he can see God, that he can decide in his mind and his kazait finite brain who God is. That means God is no bigger than my finite kazait brain. So there's two aspects to Ele. Number one, it's what Yoni said. Yeah, the reason I'm elaborating on it because Sefer Vayikra is the solution for this by introducing Oel Moed, which we're entering. That's why this is so significant to understand the crux of the issue over here, the crux of the mistake that Oel Moed comes to fix. So Ele has two layers of mistake that come together. Number one, it's what Yoni said. It's plural, as if God is plural. There's a multiplicity of gods. It's mistake number one. Mistake number two, I can point to God, which erases kind of from God his infinity and his beyondness, his abstractness, and his aboveness. You know what the Zohar explains, by the way, look at my hands, please, for a moment. When Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, you probably all remember the pasuk from Parshat Vayikra. The dalid at the end of Echad is a large dalid, right? The ayin at the end of Shema is large. You know what? Turn your chumashes to Parshat Vayikra for a quick moment. Turn your chumash into Parshat Vayikra. especially if you have a Koran or an art scroll, Chumash, maybe others also. פרק ה', ספר דברים, פרק ו', I'm sorry, פרק ו', פסוק ד', chapter 6, פסוק 4. Chapter 6, pasuk 4. So, chapter 6, pasuk 4, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Sefer Dvarim, Parashat Vayikra, Perek Vav, pasuk Daled. There's an ayin which is larger. There's a daled which is larger. Together, of course, they come together as
Ode.
This is a testimony. We're testifying to Hashem's oneness. Okay, but let's just focus on the daled of the Echad. In Parshat Ki Tisa, right after Chet HaEgel, it says there, Lo tishtachaveh le'el acher. Turn to Parshat Ki Tisa. Kedai to see it inside. It's actually fascinating. Parshat Ki Tisa. Just turn two more pages from where we were. Perek Sefer Shmot, Perek Lamed Daled, Pasuk Yud Daled. Sefer Shmot, Perek Lamed Daled, Pasuk Yud Daled. Perek Lamed Daled, Pasuk Yud Daled. This is already after Chet HaEgel, after forgiving Klal Yisrael for Chet HaEgel. We get a lot of instructions. One of them is here towards the end of Parshat Ki Tisa. Notice the big letter coming up. Ki lo tishtachaveh le'el acher. Don't bow down to an el acher. What's el acher? What does acher mean?
Another
God. Notice the tip of the difference between Hashem Echad and El Acher. The Daled of Echad is large. The Reish of Acher is large. The difference between Hashem Echad, the unification of God, and Avodah Zarah, which is defined as El Acher, is the tip of the difference between a Daled and a Reish. This is just this alone. We can finish here now, and I can leave you with a lot of food for thought in terms of the difference between them.
Can you repeat the point?
I didn't say the point yet, Yoni.
Okay.
Good. I'm going to say the point. The point is as such. First of all, it's a question. It screams out. If I'm not mistaken, the Zohar says this explicitly. Hashem Echad versus El Acher. The Daled versus the Reish. They're enlarged to distinguish between them. The difference is, and this is the point, Yoni and everybody else, listen carefully, it's a subtle, deep point. El Acher, look at my hands, please. Look at my fingers. El Acher, that means in Avodah Zarah, when I'm bowing down to another God, the other God, I meet him, but he is my continuation. He's my extension. That's the Reish. We meet and he continues me. He's my extension cord. I decide in my mind who he must be. Hashem Echad, lehavdil, I can connect to him, but he's completely beyond me. He begins before me and he continues after me. You hear the difference between the two? It's a fine line. And if it's a fine line, it means it's a fine line in my head. When I come to connect HaKadosh Baruch Hu, do I project onto God who I decided he must be? That's El Acher, that's Avodah Zarah, that's El Elohecha Yisrael. I connect a God who's beyond me. That's Hashem Echad. That's the line of the Daled that began before and continues after. Okay. Any questions on this point?
Yeah.
Quite.
What was it in Ki Tisa that it says El Acher?
What?
Where is that quote from? The Acher.
Perek Lamed Daled, Parashat Ki Tisa. Perek Lamed Daled in Sefer Shmot, Pasuk Yud Daled. Chapter 34, Pasuk 14.
Okay.
Okay?
Rav, I have a question.
Yes, Eitan.
it's a little deep and slightly unrelated, but like why would you mentioned like our Kazai's brain, but why would we be creative with such like a small like brain with like finite capabilities if if we are then meant to study and like understand like the Torah, which is like beyond, which is, you know what I mean?
Now, Eitan, what I meant is a relative statement. When you compare our brain to that of a cat, it's uncomparable. Okay, not only in terms of the size physically, but in terms of our capabilities are just unfathomable. We're shocked. The brain study is probably the most fascinating study in the world. It's the most complex entity in the known universe is the human brain. The number of neurons in the human brain is just unimaginable. And the number of connections there, it starts getting close to infinity. Okay, but I'm saying that's relative to a cat or to a mouse, or relative or to a chimpanzee. Okay, but relative to God, that's why I keep emphasizing our Kazayid brain, realizing our limitations of perspective. Okay, if you wish, in one pocket, I look at other animals and I realize the absolutely incredible gift that I have between my two ears. In my other pocket, I have another realization of how small my brain is in relationship to the brain of the world. In every single corner of the world. What I'm trying to say is that the human mind is, and we Jews have the obligation to use our mind as much as we possibly can. Torah criticizes very deeply people who could and do not learn. People who can develop their mind and their heart, perspective, understanding what the world is, what's the meaning of life, what does it mean to become a better person. When people could learn and they don't, it's considered one of the biggest human mistakes in Judaism. In Amma Haaretz, not somebody who can't. I'm not talking about somebody who mentally is not capable. Somebody who can, but wastes his life away where he can use it, to use that which was given to him as the biggest gift between his two heads, to make this world a better place and to understand better what the world of God is. And he doesn't, is the biggest tragedy in the world, which is why Judaism says that's the beginning of understanding of why Talmud Torah keneged kulam. So on one hand, we Jews have human beings in general, but Jews specifically, we're talking about our family, Jews, we're talking about us for a moment. We have an ongoing obligation about whatever we can try to put our mind on, whatever we can try to understand, we have an obligation to try to understand. That's in one pocket. That's in one pocket, quote unquote. The other pocket, I need to hold on to the perspective that whatever I'm not able to understand, I'm able to stand and say, wow, it's beyond my understanding. I comprehend that this is completely beyond me. Such as the classic for me, I always talk about it in yeshiva, on Emunah Day and other times, we have no clue scientifically till today what that which we really have between our two ears, I'm not talking about the hardware, but rather the software, not the brain, but the human mind actually is, and what material it consists of, and what's the secret of the human mind. It's an enigma for scientists. We don't have a clue what the human mind actually is. We don't know a clue of what is our very essence, how much humility this is supposed to bring about. A proper Jew works with these two pockets. With one hand in one pocket, he tries to use his head to try to understand anything possibly that he can try to understand. As long as there's meaning behind it. There's a purpose to it. The main purpose is to become a better person and to make this world a better place. That's the reason where we're given a brain, according to Torah. At the same time, I have a hand in another pocket. There, I remember how limited my mind actually is. And I try to juggle between the two. If I juggle both, so then I become wiser and wiser, and also more and more humble at the same time.
Thank you.
Okay, so to sum up this stage, what Yoni said is correct, and we added another element. The mistake of Chet HaEgel, Ele Elohecha Yisrael, has two layers to it. One is the multiplicity. One is the erasing of the beyondness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Erasing the infinity of HaKadosh Baruch when you examine the word Ele, okay, go back to Ele Elohecha Yisrael. When you examine the word Ele, back to Perek Lamed Bet Pasuk Daled, Sefer Shmot Perek Lamed Bet Pasuk Daled, ויקח מידם ויצר אותו בחרת ויעשהו עגל מסכה ויאמרו אלה אלוהיך ישראל. These are your God. That number one, multiplicity. Number two, this, I can point to God. These, God is pointable, God is tangible, God is comprehensible. So when you look at the word Ele, what is the gematria of Ele? What is the numerical value of Ele? Aleph is 1, 30. Lamed is 30. Hey is 5. Altogether, 36. 36. Now, the secret behind this, maybe I mentioned this already here last time, is that if you look at the world in which we live as a cube, okay, if we look at the world as a cube, and we know that in our sources, we look at the world as living in a cube, which the Mishkan, by the way, is the emblem, is the miniature of that cube of the Mishkan. The cube has 6 sides to it, right? There's 6 boards, so to speak, that make a cube. When do we make reference to these 6 sides? One example is on Sukkot. Right? We shake the lulav in all 6 directions. Mizrach, Ma'arav, Darom, Safon, Mala, Mata, or B'Shem Hashem Elokei Yisrael, Mimini Michael, or Mismoli Gavriel, Milfanai Oriel, Machwai Rafael, V'al Roshi Shchinat El. 6 sides. These are the 6 sides of the world in terms of space, in terms of time. These are the 6 days of the week. The 7th is already the inside conductor, just like we said it about the Malchut. David HaMelech is the conductor of the orchestra. The point in the inside of the cube, the focal point of the cube, that is not a side. It just like the conductor who doesn't have an instrument, so to the cube doesn't have a side to it. It's an invisible focal point that doesn't have a side, which allows for the cube to become a cube, which is Shabbat turns the 6 days of the week into a cube. And the inside of it is already the inner content, the harmonizing of it into one greater harmony, which is the whole, which is greater than the parts that make it up, which is what the role of the Melech is in Klal Yisrael, the conductor in an orchestra, and the inside of the cube in relationship to the cube, and Midat Malchut in relationship to the 6 Midot of that week, and so on and so forth. And all such systems. So all different relationships in the world of 6 is these 36. And that is the detachment of the Kodesh. It's the cutting away from Kodesh. It's the world of Chol with all of its different fragmented pieces is this number 36, Ele. But what happens in the Mishkan? What's the other name of the Mishkan? Ohel Moed. Ohel Moed. Ohel Moed takes the same word, Ele, switches around the order from Ele to Ohel, Aleph, Hey, Lamed. Moed. Moed means meeting, the tent of meeting. Moed, like hitva'adut. Moed means a meeting point. Moadim, for example, in the year, the Chagim are points in time where we meet HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Moadim. Ohel Moed, the tent of meeting, means on this level that, and this is why we start understanding the depth of in what way the Ohel Moed is a tikkun for Chet HaEgel. It takes all sides of the world from Ele, which is the destructive perspective. It gathers them all together. It brings them to meet and to harmonize. And that all takes place in the center of the cube of the Mishkan. Okay? And that's where all the fragmented pieces gather and receive their inner meaning in the inside of the Mishkan. And this takes us into Sefer Vayikra, which is taking us into the inside of the cube, into the inside of the Mishkan. As we saw already a couple of times ago, by the end of Shemot, Moshe finds himself on the outside of the Mishkan. That's stage one. First of all, the Mishkan is beyond me. Fixing Chet HaEgel, where God is not beyond me. God is in my pocket. God is finite as me. I can point to God. God is tangible. God is the stars. God is the world. You hear these perspectives around the world. You hear this, for example, in Buddhism, that if there's any concept such as similar to God, it's the harmony of the world. But it erases the beyondness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu harmonizes the world, but he's not limited by the harmonized world that he made. He's much greater and beyond that. So this all comes together to bring us in to the Mishkan. Stage number one was the end of Shemot. The Mishkan is beyond. Just realizing that God is beyond, hiding behind a cloud, solves the mistake of Chet HaEgel. God is not tangible. God is not finite like my head. God is beyond and infinite and abstract. And the fixing of that is by adding to the Aleph Lamed Hey, says the Zohar, 2 letters, I don't know if we spoke about it last week, of Shem Elokim. Shem Elokim, one of the names of God, is made up of 2 words, Ele and me. Ele Elohecha Yisrael. But another word, me. Says Yeshayahu Hanavi. Raise your eyes above and see who created all these stars. So Chet HaEgel reduces God to the level of these, meaning to the stars, which defines Avodah Zarah. But Yeshayahu Hanavi says, raise your eyes and ask yourself, who created all these? That who, that's a mode of a question, which realize God is a question. God is beyond. God is not I can't comprehend HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I can comprehend him through his creation, but he himself remains beyond. Welcome to God. Goodbye, Chet HaEgel. The very ending of Shemot solves Chet HaEgel. The fact that I realize HaKadosh Baruch Hu is behind the cloud. The fact that I find that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is hiding in the inside of the Mishkan, which I can't just barge into. I can't enter. That itself solves Chet HaEgel. Once that is accomplished, now you can come into the Mishkan. If you know how not to come in, you can come in. Now that we come in, let's let ourselves be invited in. Let's start the opening pasuk in Sefer Vayikra. I'm turning the pages. Sefer Vayikra, Perek Aleph, Pasuk Aleph. May have mentioned only at the tail end of another shir. Let's delve into it. Vayikra el Moshe, Vayidaber Hashem elav, me'oel moed lemo. The actual entering into the Mishkan itself, which brings us into the book, the center book of the 5 books, the 3rd book, which provides it with a unique status of the center book. This book I'm sorry. You hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. This book of Vayikra is the center book. We're entering into the center of Torah. As we enter into the center of Machane Yisrael, which is the Mishkan. The same book that takes us into the Mishkan is the book that takes us into the inside of Torah. We're going to be elaborating on that. We're going to be seeing that Bezrat Hashem. Has to be so. The Sefer Vayikra has Bereshit and Shemot and Bamidbar Devarim on both its sides. It's the inside. But what's so fascinating is the invitation in. The invitation into the world of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The invitation into HaKadosh Baruch Hu's world, what I call Olam HaKodesh, is through Vayikra. I call you in. I invite you in. The calling in is the doorway into Olam HaKodesh. Olam HaKodesh, the doorway into Olam HaKodesh, the world of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's another world. The inside of the Mishkan is another world. It's the world of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, later to become Beit HaMikdash. The doorway in is this Kri'ah. Rashi says, Kri'ah Lashon Chiba. It's an expression of affection. I'm inviting you in. this affectionate invitation in, this calling in, is the doorway into the Kodesh. That alone, for thinkers, thought-provoking as can be, and it gives a definition, an umbrella definition for the entirety of the book of Vayikra. Because if all of Vayikra is defined as such, that means this definition has to take care of every single parsha in this book, all the way to Bechukotai, all the way to the end of Bechukotai. Keep that in mind. So Bezrat Hashem, we're going to get to the end of Bechukotai in a few weeks. We'll have to examine everything there, looking back in hindsight. Now we're looking from the beginning into the book. Then we're going to be looking into the book from the end. Sof ma'aseh b'machshavat tchila. And if they don't unify the beginning and end, we have a problem. So, first of all, before we delve into the Vayikra, say some words that Yoni wrote to me, and we'll delve into the secrets, somewhat of whatever we can scrape in our head out. But let me ask you the following. I have a feeling we did not mention it last week. The way a thinking young Jew, I include myself as well, the way a young thinking Jew should be at this point is, what's the intrinsic relationship between these two biblical concepts? Kri'ah ve'kedusha. Lama hadelet letoch olam hakodesh ze bekri'ah. Meaning, to phrase it a little differently, where I want to go to, I'm saying this in general in terms of training our head how to think in these realms of Torah. I find a meeting point here between two concepts, kri'ah melashon likro, kri'ah, and kedusha. So what I want to do in my head, I'm telling you, I'm sharing with you, this is where my mind goes. I think this is the proper way of thinking. Do we find other places that kri'ah and kedusha come together? I'm throwing it to you as a question.
הרב זה יוסף אבידן.
כן, שלום יוסף, אני רואה אותך.
אולי יכול להיות שהקשר זה שקודש, אני יודע שהרב אומר כל הזמן התוספות בקידושין, זה מיוחדת לי, מזומנת לי, ולכאורה לא...
יוסף, תגיד באנגלית כדי שכולם יבינו.
Okay, sorry. So the Kedushin usually means, one of the definitions could be separate. So, and then Kriya is coming inside. So I that's just what came to mind. Usually, like there's a Tosfot in Kedushin that explains when a man Mekadesh is a woman, she's special to him, she's unique to him. So when we think of the world of Kodesh, we think of something unique, something, and then Kriya is something coming inside. That's what just came to mind.
Okay. Well, we'll have to develop this more. I have it written in my head now from you, and feel free, B'ezrat Hashem, later tonight, or not that we have that much time left, we have another 10 minutes to go, or next year, if B'ezrat Hashem we meet. By the way, I'll have to let you know in terms of the schedule this week, Yom HaZikaron, Yom HaAtzmaut. You all remember Zman Kayitz is always very choppy. I'm not sure exactly how many times we'll meet this week, but I hope the most of the week we will meet. Okay, what else? Any other Kri'ah ve'kedusha meeting points? The truth is, before even asking conceptually, as Yosef did right now, which is good, that's ultimately where we want to get to. But prior to the conceptual level, just in terms of, do we find other places that the two terms meet? Think well. Kri'ah ve'kedusha. Play with a word. Maybe it comes out in a different tense.
Like Kiddush, maybe? Like you have to speak, and that's Kiddush, Kedusha.
קראת לשבת עונג?
וקראת לשבת עונג. מעניין, יפה. Okay. וקראת לשבת עונג. I have to think about that. Good. The term Kedusha there doesn't appear, but Shabbat is Shabbat Kodesh. Omer Yosef, says Yosef, קראת לשבת עונג. Okay. It's definitely a very interesting pasuk. What's the secret of it? יכול להיות, I have to think about it more. Josh, you wanted to say something?
I feel like there's something in Sefer in Parsha Bereshit. I'm not remembering exactly. One of the creations, is it called Kodesh? Or I could be confusing something.
I mean, in the 6 days of creation, the only place we find Kodesh is when Shabbat comes in. Right?
Oh.
But I don't think we find there the term, you're right, but I don't think the term Kri'ah comes there. Right? I don't think we find the Shorish Kufur Ej Aleph there.
We have Vayikra Elzev Yamar, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh.
Exactly. Shkoyech. Excellent. וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, קדוש, קדוש. Wonderful. Wonderful. וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, קדוש, קדוש. That's the way the malachim call out each other in Kedusha. Another place, this is not a biblical source, but it's a very ancient song that we have. I don't know if the Sephardi have it in their machzorim, you'll correct me, but on Yom Kippurim, there's one of my favorite piyutim, both in terms of the words and in terms of the tune, at least the way they sing it in yeshiva, Ha'aderet va'emunah, l'chai olamim, right? Ha'aderet va'emunah. I'm remembering now that people sing it with a different tune and Simchas Torah, but the way they sing it in yeshiva, I think it's a Chabad nigun. Ha'aderet va'emunah, l'chai olamim. Okay? It's when you get to Kuf, it's Hakriya veHakedusha l'chai olamim. Hakriya veHakedusha l'chai olamim. It's another place. It's a very ancient song. I'm not even sure that we know who wrote it, but okay. I'm trying to think. There are other places, but what we're saying right now, the meeting point between Kriya veKedusha should have the meeting point between them should remain a question mark in our head, hovering over our head for the rest of our discussions in Vayikra. What is it about the meeting, the deep conceptual that Yosef started going into, meeting point between Kriya and Kedusha? It can't be secondary. It needs to be intrinsic. That the way in is through Kriya. Continuing what I think Yoni said a little earlier, in terms of kiddush, that that maybe the Kriyat Torah will be a meeting point without. That our tapping into the Torah is through Kriyat Torah. Kriyat Megillah, Al Mikra Megillah, V'tzivanu Al Mikra Megillah. You know, all the Kriyot, the reading of Parshiyot B'Torah or Tanakh, might be an expression of that. That's the way we draw out. We enter, or to say, like Yosef said, Yosef Avidan said, you enter into Torah by reading it. That Kriya. That's like the doorway in. Okay, I'm grappling with it just as you are, okay? But I'm encouraging us all to think about it.
Harav, one comes to mind from this week's parsha. You said a lot of times this year in the middle share to look at the opposite, so look at the other side. So, like I think in this week's parsha there was an opposite where the Metzora had to call out Tame, Tame, Tame. So there was
right, yeah.
So that's the opposite, which is something that we look at for also.
No, so what do you mean in terms of here?
No, I don't know exactly how it fit, but I just know that, like you say, that when we look for something, we also look for the opposite that could also tell you about it itself. So that just came to mind as an opposite.
Okay, so speaking of opposites, good. Speaking of opposites and examination through opposites, let's do exactly that. Let's go now one stage. We have just a few more minutes to go. Let's take it all one level further, and that is the actual focusing on the very word Vayikra. The very word Vayikra, if you have a proper chumash in front of you, you see that it's written in a way that it has a small aleph. Many of you are familiar with this. Many of you have heard about it, learned about it, heard Divrei Torah about it. It's spoken a lot about. Aleph Ze'ira. Rashi make reference to it. Vayikra, with a small aleph. It's not a mistake in the print, not of Art Scroll, not of Chumash Kohen. That's the way it's written. It's Medinei Sefer Torah. Medinei Sefer Torah, just we have certain letters which are larger, like we saw 2 examples earlier. Actually, 3 examples, the Ayin, the Daled, and the Reish. The Ayin, Daled, and Shema, and the Reish of Lo Tishtachave Le'el Acher. And then you have letters which are small, like this aleph. Now, so what happens here is as such. And what I'm saying right now is developing based on Chazal, and basically Rashi, we're learning Rashi right now. It's fascinating and it's beautiful. Look what happens when you look at the word Vayikra with an aleph and without an aleph. Why? because if the aleph would be the same size, I would not consider that there's another word lying in the inside of it. I wouldn't consider to break it down. Being that the aleph is smaller, all of a sudden the aleph diminishes, and it pronounces, it emphasizes that there's another word hiding in the inside of Vayikra, which is the Vayikra without the aleph, that's standing out more expressed, more accented by the fact that it's larger than the aleph, and that is Vav Yud Kuf Reish. Now, is that a word that has any significance or meaning in Lashon HaKodesh?
Yakar is like expensive.
Yakar is expensive. Or with a Vav, La Yehudim Aita, we read it not too long ago. La Yehudim, Ha Aita Ora, Vesimcha, Vesason, Vikar, Vav Yud Kuf Reish. More so. What, Joey?
Isn't there a chazal about the way that Hashem speaks to Bilam and Hashem speaks to Moshe? Is that where the road is heading?
Yes. Everybody, please go quickly. We don't have much time. We have 2-3 minutes to Parshat Balak, Sefer Bamidbar. Always come with a Chamisha Chumshei Torah because we're running all over the place often. Parshat Balak, Sefer Bamidbar. Perek Kaf Gimel, Pasuk Daled. It appears a few times. This is one of them. Perek Kaf Sefer Bamidbar, Perek Kaf Gimel, Pasuk Daled. You know what? Go one pasuk back. Perek Kaf Gimel, Pasuk Gimel. Okay, this is the beginning of Bilam's attempts to curse the Jews. Remember, everybody, he was invited by the king of Moab, Balak, to curse the Jews. This is the prophet of the nations of the world. He is the opponent of Moshe. Gam et zeh, l'umat zeh asay Elokim. As Chazal teach us, the nations of the world receive the prophet as well, so they don't claim, had we had a prophet, we would have done better. You had one, Bilam. He has the same capabilities of Moshe. Perek Kaf Gimel, Pasuk Gimel. Vayomer Bilam leBalak. So Bilam turns to the king of Moab, Balak, after all the preparations that preceded this. Hityatzev al olotecha, stand by your korban. Ve'elcha ulai yikare Hashem likrati. Ulai yikare Hashem likrati. Interesting word, yikare. Milashon.
Future.
What?
Future. Will
No,
happen.
yikare. Yeah, it's in the future tense. Will happen. Maybe God will happen about me. Milashon mikre. אולי, נכון. כן, אנחנו בדיוק שם. My wife in the background is mentioning this pasuk. אולי יקרא השם לקראתי, ודבר מה יראני, והגנתי לך, וילך שפי. And there comes pasuk Daled. ויקר אלוהים אל בלעם. God, ויקר אל בלעם. Chazal, with their fascinating head, linked the two. And Rashi here brings it down. You can see afterwards Rashi inside. In the beginning of Vayikra, when Hashem meets Bil'am, it's Vayikar, Milashon Mikre. Somehow happened upon him, like somebody who just happened to randomly bump into. As opposed to Moshe. By Moshe, no, it's Vayikar, but with an aleph at the end, which makes all the difference in the world. And that is a private self-reference, calling by name. Moshe, please, come in. An affectionate, warm meeting, as opposed to the cold, vayikar, cold, random, chance-oriented meeting. To sum it up for now, what comes out is as such. We know, speaking of opposites, as Yoni said to us before, Yoni or Yosef, I don't remember, that in Olam Hazeh, I only know things through opposite. I know black through white, white through black. Tov through Ra, Ra through Tov. I know myself in relationship to my surroundings in relationship to myself. It's a world of relativity. Our perception here is always relative. I can only realize what Vayikra to Moshe actually is if I compare and contrast it with that which is similar yet completely opposite, and that is Vayikar. Meaning, I want to know what Vayikra is. I need to examine what Vayikar is. Vayikar means kar, cold, random. There's no relationship, there's no affection. Something to do with chance, coincidence, happened upon. The opposite of that is what Vayikra is. The meaningfulness, the warmth, and the content that goes into the invitation, which is the doorway into the Kedusha. The opposite of that is the randomness of Vayikar, of Mikra. Mikra and Kodesh end up being opposites of each other. Very, very, very thought-provoking. A lot to think about. Meaning, I want to understand what Kedusha is. The doorway into it is through Kri'ah. What is Kri'ah? The opposite of Vayikar, of Mikra. And I'll conclude with the following question for you for tomorrow night. In the English language, the word call, such as in Kriya, call versus chance or happened upon or random as in Mikre, have nothing to do with each other linguistically. Two separate words. Go ask any, linguist even, and definitely anybody who has a good English. There are two words that don't come together. What does call got to do with chance or happened upon? But in Lashon HaKodesh, they meet into one word. If the aleph is there, it becomes a calling, a Moshe meeting. If there's no aleph, it's a random, chance-oriented meeting. How do they come together to one word? Why isn't it that in the inside of Vayikra with an aleph, there's a Vayikar without an aleph? What's the secret of this meeting point of these two seemingly totally unrelated words? What we'll see tomorrow night is that they're completely related, because this is not the only place biblically that they meet. There are other fascinating places. We'll talk about one such meeting in Parshat Shmot. If you want, between now and tomorrow night, you can do some homework and scan through Parshat Shmot. Maybe you'll pick up on what I'm saying. Settle? Good. Wow, Mama Sheyake. Finished exactly on time.